The origin of the ghosts. The final shape sheds some more light on this subject, and today we discuss its mysteries. The creation of ghosts, the afterlife, and a combination of light and darkness. The quick answer is that ghosts don't even know much about their creation at first, but as we piece together lore cards from the past and new information in the final shape, we get a bigger picture. Stay tuned for that juicy info. From the difference of opinion card from, I believe, Forsaken, two ghosts argue about the Traveler and the nature of it. They say things like this: the Traveler is our primary, our mother, the primordial and the pinnacle. A dear friend, the ghost of Pujari, once compared the Traveler to a song that has never been sung. We know she wished for us to raise guardians to be her avatars and defenders. They then speak in metaphors about the inside of the Traveler. Imagine a cosmos inside a bottle, trillions of stars orbiting each other in a complex weave. But they aren't stars. Perhaps a better word would be souls. Souls dancing in an infinite space enclosed within a celestial egg. Some people say that each ghost is an aspect of the Traveler. That is to say that each ghost represents a part of the divine whole. So these quotes were ghosts speculating about their origin. In the We Before Us card, ghosts speak about the moment they were born. I remember the moment we were born. There was pain and loss and a feeling of falling. Was this the end? The shadows gathered, colored bruised purple and gray in our fading existence. Our shell cracked and splintered. Parts of us were lost or carried away. We felt those wounds, jagged and sharp. We could feel them still, attached by a gossamer thin strand of understanding. We felt a garden with no blooms, a valley shrouded in gloom. We felt ourselves dying. We didn't want to go. Then there I was, separated from the whole. I could feel it shrink, slip back into itself, dim and unseeing. I knew it was waiting, resting, watching, considering. And I knew what I needed to do. Somewhere in this wide, amazing galaxy, there was a person. They were quiet and dead, like we had been, but I could bring them back. I could share what was inside of me, this glorious warmth and life and breath and being. Together, that person and I would do what the we before me, could not. I wrapped the spark that was me in metal and glass, a tiny bit of something that reminded me of the home we had shared. Then I set out to find my person, the keeper of light. There were so many people. So many still, fragile things decaying into dust, lost to memory. I touched each one, looking for something, a fragment of ember under the ash. I didn't find it. I know that there is one person, only one, that is mine. I have been to many planets, seen things I never knew were possible, hid from monsters, followed dreams. I have seen others of my kind, the other pieces that were once us. Their search is over. They are complete, stronger, braver because they found their counterpart. I am alone. I know you are still out there, that you're waiting for me, but it has been so long, and I am so very cold. I will rest here and think about us for a moment. Cold, where we, you. So a being, this ghost, recalls its birth marked by pain and fragmentation. Despite feeling parts of itself dying, it survives and separates from the whole, from the Traveler, knowing it must find a specific person in the galaxy to share its life and warmth with. So it seems all of these souls existed within the Traveler. It says our shell cracked and splintered, parts of us were lost. The ghost says it can share this glorious warmth and life and breath and being. It was sent out to find a guardian, a keeper of light, and together they can do what the we before me, whatever was inside the Traveler or the Traveler itself, could not. What's interesting is that the birth there was marked by pain and separation. This is likely around the collapse or after it when the ghosts were created. We now know that light and dark are forces of nature. We also have the belief that at one point they may have been whole, one primordial force. Veil and Traveler together, light and dark together. The forces run in parallel and you can reach them by grasping to different parts of the spectrum. Prismatic is everything combined. Listen to this veil containment audio from last year and then listen to what Ghost says in the Pale Heart when we get prismatic.
That at one time they may have been united. Part of a whole.
So, wait. Does this mean the light and darkness were the same once? One force?
Dr. Essie believed so. Chioma Essie was researching the entanglement of light and dark without fully understanding either. Our ghosts are a link to the light of the Traveler. Then how was the witness able to, on numerous occasions, communicate through them?
Is this about the magnets thing? The parallel energy fields, right?
Very good. In areas of darkness, the witness is able to create a link, not unlike what it created with the Veil and the Traveler.
Ah, like the Vex are able to hack into the Cloud Arc with their tech. It's a parallel connection.
And I believe that connection may not be one-sided. I believe that our ghosts may be able to leverage this connection against it.
I can feel it. The way the light flows through you. Freer. Harmonious with darkness. A full chromatic spectrum. I've only experienced something of this magnitude once before. When the Traveler created ghosts to raise guardians. When I was born.
Ghosts can feel the light flow through us in a full spectrum. Light harmonious with darkness. The only other time ghosts said they felt this was when they were born, through that pain and fragmentation. So this further confirms that ghosts have part darkness within them, like a guardian, like all things, and how the witness was able to reach that spectrum and speak through ghosts in the past, like Shadowkeep, like Beyond Light. So we don't know the exact specifics, but we know the Traveler cut pieces of itself off to create ghosts.
In its dying breath, the Traveler created the ghosts to seek out those who can wield its light as a weapon. Guardians to protect us and do what the Traveler itself no longer can.
Cayde is also a central piece to this new information. He tells us that there is an afterlife of sorts inside the Traveler or within the light. He felt at peace with Sundance, with the Traveler. Ghost tells us that Cayde is made of pure light, like Ghost, like the Traveler as well.
So, Cayde, I looked him over while you were talking. Scan says that's really him. There's a few readings I can't explain. He's made of light, like me, like the Traveler. Ghosts are guides, conduits for the light. Cayde might not be able to wield his as a weapon, but if he's like me, maybe he can share the Traveler's light, like we do.
Your body is a construct of light, even if you aren't able to wield it as a weapon.
Light. So bright it burned me all the way up, but I didn't feel any heat. Not a lick. I didn't feel anything, actually. Not with my body, because I left that back there. These anatronauts might call it being one with the Traveler, but I call it home. No pain. No fear. No Vanguard paperwork. That's heaven.
And Sundance?
She was shining there too. You want to know a secret? I miss it. Even more than I miss you.
What comes from the light returns to the light. My gal Sundance told me that. She also said we're all connected. Guardians, ghosts, the Traveler.
So this was foreshadowed great throughout the campaign. Cayde does in fact share that light in the end to bring back your ghost. Throughout the journey, both Cayde and Ghost felt the traveler's pain, both sharing that light and part of the divine whole. In the message missions, Cayde speaks to what he believes is Sundance, but this may have just been the traveler the whole time. The whole purpose of the message 1, 2, and 3 was to speak to the traveler, learn what it had to say, and in the end, this is what Cayde found.
Devotion. Bravery. Sacrifice.
The Guardian tenets.
Hi.
Sundance? Is that really you?
I'm what you wanted me to be.
I don't understand.
I know. You've been here before. You will be here again. You just don't remember. You can't. What comes from the light returns to the light.
Well, what if what I want is to stay here? With you?
If that's the fate you make. But you're always with me, Cayde. Guardians, ghosts, the Traveler. We're all connected. We're...
We're not done yet though. In the Traveler's visions you can collect from around the Pale Heart, Micah deciphers more of this, the ghosts and their origin.
I am giving away pieces of myself, slicing them off like fingers from a hand. They're ghosts. With each one created, I lose a part of myself. A sacrifice of faith and hope against hopelessness. They are like stars in the night sky, constellations of my martyrdom, traveling until they begin to go out, one by one, and with each one's passing, a part of me returns.
There's a theory among ghosts that if we die, we return to the light of the Traveler. I don't know where that belief started.
Maybe it's just something inside of us. A reassurance that even if we fall, there's something waiting for us.
A reunion with our Creator. And in that, maybe we make it whole again.
Our memory as well. An eternity within the Traveler, with all Guardians who experience their final deaths. An afterlife.
Cayde spoke of his experiences after death as peaceful, and as if he wasn't alone. Perhaps there's truth to this, that there can be something at the end.
So to conclude, ghosts are pieces of the Traveler. All beings of light return to it after death and make it whole again. The Traveler during the collapse to combat the Witness, or in effect of its battle against it, shed parts of itself to create these tiny drones who clearly seem to have a soul of their own. The Traveler basically took on a whole race of aliens that merged into one being by dispatching its own force of souls, so to speak, to revive its own army. We know the Veil had a part to play in the Witness combining itself and its species into one being, so perhaps during the collapse something did happen and maybe the Veil was a part of it, but that's just speculation. Fragmenting those souls or parts of the Traveler's consciousness into ghosts, who knows. In the end though, ghosts don't have all the answers, but they know their purpose and connection with their Creator now. And in pure Destiny fashion, we don't have a concrete answer, but this does give us more insight for sure as we progress into the future. Sometimes it's nice to get straight answers, sometimes you don't need them. It makes the journey and experience better. Not sure which one it is in this case, but I'm just excited to present the lore.
Is it possible? There you are. Guardian. There you are.
The biggest failure in the lore of Destiny 2 has returned again. The ancient knight pledging tribute to Xivu Arath appears inside the Pale Heart and has been demoted. Also, is the Herald of Finality in the new Salvation's Edge raid somehow tied to Taniks? Let's discuss. Kel'Garath was originally a part of the Hidden Swarm on the moon. Now, the Hidden Swarm was already pretty messed up after the Guardians destroyed Crota and the Dark Below, but during Shadowkeep, Savathun's forces would invade and their sole job was to take out the remaining bloodlines. Kel'Garath, a knight a part of Crota's forces, became enraged by this and vowed to follow the Sister of War Xivu instead of Savathun. The knight took part in exterminating Savathun's broods on Titan and was ordered to hunt her down in the Dreaming City during Season of the Lost. This was when our Guardian first encountered Kel'Garath in gameplay. First in the opening mission as a simple knight, halfway through the season revived anew a bigger Taken knight with a boomer weapon now, and then again as the final boss of the season. Here's those gameplay moments quickly.
Gotta be. Any Taken signals falling on you?
A big Wrathborn headed your way too.
Be brave. Osiris is not far ahead.
Xivu Arath's subordinate came to my doorstep as a thief. Their death is the price of encroachment.
Xivu Arath is desperate. She's sending her new champion as a last resort.
Despite his failures, he kept coming back and would get promoted. It seems Xivu had a plan for him and somehow believed he could continue to lead her forces. In Season of the Seraph, Kel'Garath returned as a Dark Blade in the Warmind Vaults of Mars. Xivu's forces and Kel'Garath were after the Warmind technology, and Elsie Bray spoke about the knight's latest moves.
This knight attacked the Dreaming City when it harbored Savathun. He is one of Xivu's most trusted.
Good! His death will send a poignant message.
That knight we're facing, I've learned more. Their name is Kel'Garath and serve as one of Xivu's lieutenants. The Hive here tithe to them. They say the knight is risen from bones, immortal. We'll see.
The next encounter would come months later in Season of the Deep in the depths of Titan. A wizard used a piece of the Taken King's sword to transform Kel'Garath once more, thus he became taken from bones. Kel'Garath kneels before a feeble altar in an empty court, a dead knight's realm, a shriveled, fleshless rind, a cautionary tale. A wizard floats over the altar. The High Celebrant's domain was once a grand place of adoration. It holds mighty tribute. The wizard Rokthren, War Council, whispers Xivu Arath's bait to the knight. Kel'Garath remembers how Savathun sought the sky and became its puppet, all so she could usurp sword logic. Favor wanes, it can be rekindled. You were disarmed, shamed, beaten so many times by a light wielder. Kel'Garath stands, spinning to face Rokthren. He thrusts a claw forward at the wizard's throat, but she swoops back from his reach. Kel'Garath sneers, I need no blade. I am wielded. The plates upon my body are razors. Should you have remained with Savathun and prayed to her to give you the light, perhaps you would have found greatness then. You wither without her favor. I spit on the witch sister. I am an instrument of war. Not yet, not truly. Rakthrin conjures a dark bolt of lightning that saps the room's dim lighting and casts into the altar. The altar splits apart with a timbered snap, revealing an emerald sliver of a blade, bleeding shade and whispering rapture. A shard of the taken king's blade, conquered out of love, stolen away from Saturn's shadow. Kalgarath fixes upon the blade shard. The wizard gestures to it with a lipless smile, and the knight steps forward. I will take it, to be an instrument of her will, to cleanse the hate of weakness with loving violence. Kalgarath genuflects and closes his claws around the emerald sliver, wisps of shadow spilling between the gaps in his claws. I offer myself to this union. The barrier of his flesh melts away. A will not his own enraptures him. Kalgarath, risen from bones, taken by war. So while he has failed many times, he still kept his devotion to Xivu. She kept bringing him back. He rose from death, became taken, and tried many different tactics, but the Guardians won every time.
You know, this guy's pretty resilient. Wouldn't make a bad primeval.
In the final shape expansion, he's back once more, and it looks like he may have gotten a demotion this time. He went from Knight to Darkblade to Taken, and then just a regular Taken Knight, not the fancy one we saw in Deep. So not sure what's next for Kalgarath, unless this is truly his end this time, marking him as a failure. We saw in lore cards that even some of the Hive laughed at him, they didn't believe in him, and here we are at this moment. Now he's been brought back even though he wasn't taken, but Ikora said that all Taken return to the Ascendant Realm and start over when they die. Currently, as we see in this Knight form, he still is taken, so I guess there's a possibility he'll come back again. Next up, since we're on the topic of enemies returning and some of the greatest ones, let's talk about Taniks. Now, if you played the final shape in the Salvation's Edge raid, you may have encountered the Herald of Finality in the second encounter. Right away on the first day, many people were making comparisons to Taniks, the same type of head shape. Now, currently we don't have any lore that says this boss is Taniks or related to him in any way, but the design could have been a little nod towards Taniks and the memes created by the community over the years. So whether it is or not, let's talk about Taniks real quick. Taniks the Scarred is a long and storied history with the Guardian and the Destiny universe. Taniks was a fallen mercenary that began to implement cybernetic enhancements into his own body, becoming more machine than biological creature. We've had many encounters with the character over the years. He was there in the city for various battles, but also the Vanguard Dare battles against Andal and Cayde. During the House of Wolves expansion, Taniks was hired by the Wolves to infiltrate and acquire Hive tech on the moon. This is when your Guardian would first encounter them in the Shadow Thief strike. We infiltrate the Ketch and push through the jammed comms and Wolves to take out Taniks once and for all, or so we thought back then.
Unsettling news. The Devil Splicers have used Siva to resurrect an old foe. Taniks the Scarred has become Taniks Perfected.
Tanix's crew has joined the Splicers. They're using Siva to reanimate his body and overtake his territory. Lord Saladin says you are indispensable in old Russia, Guardian. We thought you should be the one to handle this.
Soon later in Rise of Iron, the Devil Splicers used Siva to reanimate the cyborg Fallen once more. He would lead troops and Splicers and pick up where he left off in Wolves, once again destroyed on the moon.
He talks. How is that possible?
Maybe Taniks was more machine than we thought. He's not alive. Perhaps he never was.
If those moon encounters weren't enough, he returned as a nightmare in Shadowkeep, the darkness haunting and twisting the Guardian's past into horrifying realities. Then came Europa. Now, a big reason Taniks is able to constantly return is because he's more machine than Elixni at this point. That might make you think about Exos, and that's exactly what happened in Beyond Light. The Fallen were on the same path, and the first Fallen Exo was born in the Deep Stone Crypt known as Atrax I. Atrax and House Salvation rebuilt Taniks, and after he battled the Guardian in various encounters and becomes a hovering shank monstrosity, is destroyed again. So in the final shape, we face off against the Herald of Finality in the Salvation's Edge raid. As I mentioned, some people have been making some connections to Taniks given the head shape. Beyond that, we have no further clues to piece together that it's related to Taniks at all. There's no cloak, but there are some interesting things to note. We know the Witness and its disciples and now the new Dread Army have been sort of crafted here in the Pale Heart, these perfect creatures in the eyes of the Witness in their perfect shapes. Taking scions, making them perfected, possibly Hive, and even another species which became the Grimm. Maybe for some of these enemies like the Herald, the Witness looked at characters like Taniks and they're like, that guy kept coming back to life, maybe let's shape this new enemy off of him. That's just a fun theory, and then also at the end, apparently when you defeat the boss, part of the soundtrack plays the Shadow Thief theme, which is Taniks' theme from Destiny 1. So for the memes would be pretty cool, but this most likely is not Taniks at all. As always, Bungie could make up some lore in the future to tell us who this is, but we currently have no clue. I've seen some theories relating it to a Cayde from the Whirlwind Chelchis, which is one of the Taken King weapons named after him, and that might be a good topic for another video, but for now, this is what we have for the memes. In new lore, Eris Morn compares herself to the Hive Pantheon, and the connection she still shares with characters like Xivu Arath. We know the Dreadnought will return in Heresy, and Eris Morn have a big part to play as the Guardian encounters a new Eldritch force. Let's take a look at this new lore. Heresy. We have 3 episodes releasing this year. Echoes out now, Revenant up next with the Fallen and Scorn, and then Heresy involving the Hive Pantheon. In their video, Bungie said it's about the Hive Pantheon itself and testing the relationships of the siblings. A new Eldritch force is opening new doors as explained, and it leads us back to the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought has a whole new purpose, Eldritch forces and secrets. The ship and weapons begin to peel back as their bones are revealed. They've shown an Eris-themed armor set which looks pretty cool, so I'm assuming Eris will be involved to some extent. Makes sense because she's involved with the Hive a lot. As for the activity, they compared the Dreadnought activity to the Shattered Realm and Coil. So not sure if that means just the type of activity gameplay and mechanic wise, or if we'd see more of the Ascendant Realm centered around it. In a new lore card for the Sword Ill Omen, Eris explores the Deck of Whispers from Season of the Witch further, and the connection between her and the Hive siblings. The Witch, the Adherent. Eris Morn plays both cards down on her work table, the illuminated faces gleaming under the sharp light of her lamp. The Deck of Whispers had not sat idle since her metamorphosis had concluded. The cards had been consulted occasionally by herself and others, each supplicant approaching with a question and leaving with a new perspective. For now, this was all the cards could provide. They no longer whispered to her since her vengeance had been satisfied, but Eris could still feel the push and pull of the Hive spells woven through their being. To any other practitioner, they would be no more than flat images, a hint of some deeper meaning. However, they were so intimately tied to her that she could still read them, even without her terrifying morph. Savathun and Xivu Arath. Where had they fled to? What were they planning? The sisters were at odds once again, the natural bond of their love and logic restored. Eris placed a third card beside the others, the Harbinger. So, she still had a role to play in all of this. She stared down at the image of herself, running an ungloved fingertip along its edge. They would come for her soon. For a fleeting moment, Eris remembered the shape of her own claws, the power of the Hive in her grip, and best of all, the terror, the fear, the heartbreak as Xivu Arath was removed from her throne. The feeling evaporated. The card faces stared up at her. The 3 of them united once again Eris Morn, Savathun, and Xivu Arath. The card spoke of confrontation, but also sorority. Xivu Arath had called her sister. Was she still? One final card, Lament. The visage of Oryx, his dreadnought, his logic and his laws. That phantom with a shadow so long it lingered over them long after his death. She tensed for a moment, her eyes lingering over the card face before picking up each one, returning them to her deck. So this card is intriguing. Eris Morn went through a lot last year in Season of the Witch. She became a hive god herself, confronted the power of Xivu, and cast her out of her own throne, making her mortal. She rose above even Savathun for a short moment so the Guardians could learn the way forward. Through that content and now this lore, Eris has a connection with the hive gods. Sure, she would always study them and was forever changed thanks to the events in the Hellmouth on the moon. But over time, she's learned of Savathun's cunning. She's learned the power of Xivu, the leadership of Oryx, and putting this all to the test with tithes and tributes. Currently, Savathun has her own plans, she always has. At moments, she doesn't agree with the ways her sister is choosing, yet she still feels a bond to her. The Hive siblings have a weird way of connecting with family. Over the past millions or billions of years, they've killed each other multiple times out of love. I believe Dual Destiny had some audio around this topic of Savathun and her sister.
What trinket from the past holds your attention so?
Not a trinket. Perspective. The knowledge of angles, of edges, and the points at which they end. A convincing argument from Sister's Cure, you could say.
So Eris is reminded of this bond and the power she once had. The card ends by mentioning Oryx and his dreadnought, which is cool. We know Heresy is an episode this year. It involves Xivu, likely Savathun and Eris, and also the dreadnought of the Taken King. Most of Eris's life after becoming a guardian has been devoted to these ancient creatures. It's also cool to see how the Hive sisters interact with her. Savathun's cunning lines and Xivu straight up calling her her sister, that she longed for Eris to acquire that power back in Witch and face her in a head-to-head battle.
Heresy! Heresy! Our sister denies your truth and crawls like an animal into the shadow of the sky! She bleeds and howls, allowing herself to be profaned by it. She spits on your memory. Sister, you always doubted. But now, it is time to test theory in praxis.
So there are many questions. What is this Eldritch Force? It'd be cool to make a video on this with theories in the future, but Oryx's ship was literally made from a worm god that he killed. Next to that, what role will Eris have? And will the Taken King actually rise again like Savathun told us? Remember that in Ghosts of the Deep we found his body in the oceans of Titan and learned that his worm was missing, but parts of him still hum with life and energy. We believe they were trying to forcibly resurrect Oryx by combining heretical Hive necromancy with the powers of that ghost. They were disrupted. Lisbon steps forward, unable to look away from Oryx's cadaverous face. Is that possible? Officially, no. Unofficially, Chauco glances at Lisbon. That's what we're here to investigate. The body is still active, with taken energy and darkness. The Guardians who intercepted this ritual reported finding free-floating fragments of consciousness on the way to this site, memories from the corpse. Cellular analysis indicates slow but active mitosis, explaining the exaggerated size of the remains when compared to the subject's last known physical dimensions. The mind is gone, but the body continues to grow. Autopsy revealed no presence of worm carcass within the Taken King. Status unknown.
Mercury, Io, and Titan are in my care. The Witness returned Mars to your solar system. The power to move worlds will soon be yours. The Taken King will rise again.
The Traveler. The alien sphere that was likely the first thing you ever seen involving a Destiny game. It would halt over humanity's last city on Earth, revive humans, and give them great power. We've had questions for years, and the final shape finally gives us some answers. Let's dive right in. Before we get into some explanations, let's read some new lore that explain the Traveler and its actions. We have some lore cards to read, but also dialogue from the Traveler Vision collectibles in the Pale Heart to break down, so stay tuned for that later in the video. We'll first start with the Ergo Sum lore, which explains the way the Traveler works and how it feels and communicates. You are a child waking from a long and dreamless sleep. It is still today, or have you slept into tomorrow, and tomorrow, until the days buried you as much as the sand? Gentle hands brush away the grains, but your voice is so soft they cannot hear you over the sound of their own heartbeats. You are a moon. You feel heavy, so heavy, but to the stargazer you hang weightless in the sky. When the stargazers call out, you do not answer. They would give themselves up for you, abandon their own dreams to chase you. You love them too much to condemn them so. You are a lighthouse keeper. You are watching over a sleepy coastal village as the storm clouds roll in, and you are flashing the signal lantern, faster and faster and brighter, but they do nothing. You are trapped on an island, in a tower, signaling desperately that it is coming, and they still do not run. They are going to die, and if you do not run, you will die too. You are leaning out over the ocean. Sometimes the fish brush against your fingers and believe that they have felt the divine. Sometimes the tide recedes, and the fish do not know you except by your absence. And today, you strive with all your might to reach the water because it is here, the great dark shadow of the shark parting the water like a knife. And you cannot warn them, but you must. You must try. You cannot bear to lose even one more. You are carrying a tower of books. If you recited one title each second, you would not finish before the heat death of the universe. And every year, every day, every minute, its hands add more to the pile. A man reaches for one of the books, for you, and you want so very badly to reach back, to take his hand and tell him that you must bear it just like he must, forever, the memory engraved in quartz, but your hands are full. You are a prisoner. The cage is so small that you can barely breathe. He screams at you to share your gift. You would not give it to anyone who thought of it so. It is a burden, a terrible weight that you have already asked too many to bear, to be crushed by. You could say all this and more. You do not. You are reaching over a chasm into which countless paths feed like arteries. You are trying to reach the people on the other side, but you cannot bridge the gap alone. You watch them turn, one after another, to walk down into the abyss until it consumes them entirely. You are as surprised as anyone else when one of those wanderers comes back up to the path, still reeking of decay, and reaches back to you. You are drowning. The water roils, dragging you down, and you are tired, so tired. The deep, dark ocean has gotten into your lungs, droplets of ink dispersing in silver blood. This time, you think, this time it has won. But when you look up, you see a figure diving toward you, fighting their way down through the suffocating waves, reaching out just like you reached out to them so many times before. You have so little strength left, but you do have it, that last gasp of air in your chest. You reach back, and in your hand is a sword. So the Ergo Sum card portrays the Traveler as a complex figure burdened with immense responsibility and struggle, yet it persists in its efforts to protect and guide others. We see as it emerges from a timeless sleep on the world of the precursors. Hands try to help it, but the Traveler's soft voice is drowned out by the world's noise. Despite the devotion of the stargazers, those who look up to it like the precursors and revere it as a god, the traveler remains silent to prevent them from abandoning their own paths. The traveler itself is a guardian, signaling danger to that village who were oblivious to the impending doom and storm. The traveler was aware of this imminent threat but struggled to save others who do not heed the warning, understand it. The traveler is burdened with endless knowledge. It is confined and pressured to share its gift, which they perceive as a burden. They choose that silence, knowing that their gift has already cost too much for so many. And possibly the end there could be one of the last missions of the final shape. The traveler felt overwhelmed, dragged down by this ocean of darkness, and as they reach their breaking point, someone is diving down to save them, reminiscent of its own efforts to try and help species in the past. In that last moment of desperation, the traveler finds the last surge of strength symbolized by a sword, ready to continue the fight and protect those they care about. So although the traveler doesn't like to speak and intervene, it struggles to, it does in various circumstances and tries to, through visions, emotions, and voices of others. In times of despair and moments of struggle, like when that village was about to get destroyed, like during the Red War, we've seen the dreams and heard the voices, and the whole Final Shape campaign was about the traveler guiding us.
Mara? The bird from our vision. That can't be a coincidence. Let's follow it. Cayde, what do you make of that bird that led us to Glint?
Well, it seems pretty obvious to me. I think it's pretty obvious to you too. The real mystery is why nobody wants to say it out loud.
I will. A traveler. It's helping us.
So this falcon bird was the traveler guiding us to our journey. Cayde was a being of pure light, and we learned that everything returns to the traveler after death. When beings of the light like the ghosts die, the traveler begins to feel more whole. Sundance speaking may have just been the traveler itself, guiding Cayde to make his choice with that guardian creed.
Devotion. Bravery. Sacrifice.
The guardian tenets.
Hi.
Sundance? Is that really you?
I'm what you wanted me to be.
I don't understand.
I know. You've been here before. You will be here again. You just don't remember. You can't. What comes from the light returns to the light.
So it's no doubt that the traveler is a good or positive entity. Its whole idea is staying silent because it wants those creatures and species to make their own choices. And also it literally hurts it at points to try and connect. It truly does, though, care for humanity and the life it creates. In the Microcosm tab, it describes the moment the traveler terraformed Mars and met the astronauts. Throughout the card, we see the temperature changes and dust storms on Mars, and when the traveler intervenes, everything begins to terraform much faster. Rain begins to fall on Mars. But there is a tipping point, a great explosion. Once achieved, there is a moment of balance. The rest flows freely and easily, faster and faster, as that which is built mounts and mounts and mounts. Atmosphere condenses, heat no longer escapes. Rain falls, and bacteria born in a single lightning strike become multi-celled organisms, and on and on and on. Green and bright, and growing, growing, growing. That is what it is for. That is the purpose, that moment of transformation and creation, of opening what was closed, of the first rain falling on untouched dirt. In that split second, there is potential. There is the beginning of every life that will ever call this place home. From the singularity of the tipping point, a magnitude of futures spiraling outward forever, forever, forever. What a privilege to witness you, at that time and at that place, as you turn your shielded faces up to the falling rain. If you've been patrolling around the Paleheart, you may have found these Traveler Vision collectibles. There's 8 of them in total. Once you collect them all, you can go to the speakers area, place them, and a chest will spawn in the middle. Once you do some more steps, you can get the exotic Kvastov. But each of these collectibles has lore where Micah 10 explains visions from the Traveler. Now in this video, I'll explain what these mean. Tomorrow's video would just be the dialogue if you like to listen to those, but let's jump right in. I've categorized these in different sections. We'll start with sacrifice and transformation. The Traveler gives parts of itself, creating ghosts that act as stars in the night sky. Each sacrifice brings a sense of martyrdom and hope against the hopelessness. The Traveler gives away pieces of itself, struggles and hurts, but as those beings and ghosts die, it begins to feel whole again. Unity and belonging. The Traveler's presence brings unity, peace, and a sense of home. It suggests a state of being where guardians may find peace and reunion with their creator after death. The Traveler's visions reveal people attuned to the light, perceiving things differently. We've had speakers in the past and characters able to listen to the Traveler like Micah in these visions. Struggle and fear. The Traveler experiences fear and conflict, shedding dark influences that cause storms of recollection. It reflects on its past struggles and transformations, further explaining this ongoing battle between light and dark. The Traveler is burdened by heavy memories and doubts, feeling as though it lacks the answers sought by its followers. It fears thought itself. The Traveler doesn't like to think. It's confused just like we are sometimes. Misunderstanding and worship. The Traveler is studied and revered by many, but it experiences confusion and helplessness regarding worship. It doesn't fully understand human emotions and worship, but it's still learning. So that is interesting. It's this ancient being of light, this gardener, that likes to protect life and cultivate it, but it's so alien and foreign that it understands and thinks in different ways, and it's hard for it to interpret and interact with the life it forges.
There's another realm? Or space? No. A state of being. Union with the Traveler. Light returned and now memory as well. An eternity within the Traveler, with all guardians who experience their final deaths. An afterlife. I see so many cities, so many peoples basking in my light. They study me, and in their discoveries they come to understand the universe. I am a blueprint for them to follow, a canvas upon which the mysteries of the universe are written. These little gardeners are such careful stewards of fragility, but then they begin kneeling. They plead, beg, demand. I do not know what to do. There is confusion, helplessness, guilt. There's nothing more.
Does this mean that the great machine does not wish to be worshipped?
I don't know if I'd interpret it that way. It may be more a lack of frame of reference. It doesn't understand reverence or worship. But that also doesn't mean it can't learn. frustration, pain. Many needing voices cry out for answers, but there are none to give. They project their own aspirations onto the Traveler, but it is not what they think it is. It does not have the answers they seek. It does not remember. Memory is heavy now. It feels like dense metal, a weight around one's neck. Nothing but dread and poisonous doubt remains. It fears the act of thought. I can't make out anymore.
Not a god. Not even silent. Just a being desperate for help. I once thought the Traveler was a foundational cornerstone of the universe. But now it feels as though it is just as afraid and uncertain as we are.
Just because someone doesn't have all the answers doesn't make them any less important. Micah's vision may seem to say the Traveler didn't have answers, but that doesn't mean it sees the universe the same way we do. Perhaps it just has a hard time explaining what it sees to us. There's many ways to interpret that vision.
So that is a summary of those visions. Like I said, I'll have a video tomorrow with just the dialogue if you'd like to listen to that and go a little bit more in depth. But that gives us the basis for the Traveler. It's painful for the Traveler to think and have memories. So that is interesting when you look at the past lore like Veil Containment, where Osiris talks about the Traveler and Veil once being whole. Maybe the Traveler was the body, the physical, and the Veil was the mind. And maybe the reason the Traveler struggles now is because the Veil, its own mind, is not with it. It cannot think because its brain is gone. The Pale Heart is a combination of both Veil and Traveler, and after the campaign we see that light and dark have once again collided and begun a new age. A new age where the Traveler strives to learn more about humanity and the life it protects. The Traveler is the biggest mystery in this game. Yes, most people want concrete answers, including myself after all this time, an entire saga. But personally now, I don't think we should get the whole picture. When you think about it, mystery is what makes this game intriguing. The Traveler being the most important and mysterious aspect of this game's lore is part of it. So if we knew what it was and how it came to be 100%, or if there's some entity or force actually controlling it, we might be like, oh, that's it? Okay, so now we know about the Traveler, what's the next mystery? Keeping it somewhat mysterious works, especially considering it's an ancient entity that understands just as much about us as we do about it. The Curse of Nezarec. It took over Mithrax just about 2 years ago, and it's consuming the leader of House Light. In new lore in this first episode, we see its influence, and with the next episode, Revenant, focusing on the Elixni, we may see Mithrax's end and ascension. So the tale of this Curse of Nezarec begins back in the Witch Queen year with Season of Plunder. Turns out long ago, Elixni pirates, Mithrax's mother, came to the solar system and they found something on the moon. Inside the pyramid, they found the body of the Witness's disciple, Nezarec. They scavenged what they could, took pieces of power, and then went on their way. Throughout these years, through pirate battles and different encounters, these relics were eventually scattered across space. And in Season of Plunder, your guardian faces off against forces of darkness to reclaim these once more so they don't fall into the wrong hands. We end up finding most, if not all of them, and Mithrax decides to use them to revive Osiris. But there is a catch. As his daughter Ido describes, there's an ancient dirge called the Curse of Nezarec, said to drain the life of the user. Here's what she said and what Mithrax did with the relics.
Now that we've collected all the relics, Mithrax and I believe that we could harness their power. To what end, we're still uncertain. While I believe in our abilities, I am concerned about the potential side effects such a process could have. An ancient dirge I discovered described something called the Curse of Nezarec, which is rumored to drain the life of the user. Of course, I don't give credence to such superstition. Dark Age humans were comically ignorant. Still, I would rather not take the risk. My father disagrees.
I suspect he wishes to redeem himself for his past wrongs, and in that, I cannot dissuade him. We will continue searching for a method to unlock the relics. Until then, the light provides.
And Mithrax could take time to study the secrets of the reliquaries. He said they were connected by threads he alone could perceive, and that they whispered to him. He performed a conversion. He claimed from them a mass of primal darkness. He distilled it, transformed its terrifying energy into a more agreeable state. And Osiris, my phoenix, who broke time itself to bring me to his side, awoke.
So as you can see, Mithrax sort of distilled the darkness out of this tea so Osiris can drink it and come back to life, wake up. He instead took the plague upon himself and is still dealing with the side effects. In Season of the Witch, a year later, Eris Morn had her deck of cards, the Deck of Whispers, used to try and decipher different ways forward, possibly predict outcomes. The card pulled for Mithrax was the Ascension card, and during that season, Mithrax began to feel more pain throughout his body. Here's a couple of those cards. Saint 14 and Osiris sat across from each other at the rough wooden table, focused on the array of wires, struts, and braces spread out before them. Mithrax had mentioned that his splicer gauntlet had been causing his arm to go numb, and Saint's overeager offer of assistance had turned into an evening of frustratingly meticulous tinkering. Mithrax had politely excused himself hours ago, but Saint and Osiris were so focused on their discussion of Savathun's bargain they hardly noticed. In the Ex-Dearest lore card, Eris is pulling some of these cards from the deck, sort of laying them out and talking about what some of them mean. 3 cards above the rest, one beside the other: Liminal, Ascension, Lacuna. All aspects of the Guardian's light. She had not held it for centuries. The Hive Sisters below beckoned more loudly than the light did. So Eris was pulling these cards, but they represent Guardians and the light. Lacuna, Liminal, and Ascension, which Mithrax pulls. At Korkel, Mithrax called out to the Athenaeum. He had come looking for the Warlock Vanguard on city business, but having found the space empty, he paused his search to scrutinize her latest operation. Mithrax had strong objections to Eris's use of hive magic, but knew the Vanguard was not his house to command. He perused the esoteric artifacts littering the space with mild distaste. They reminded him too much of the relics of Nezarec, which had plagued his youth. As his gaze came to rest on the Deck of Whispers, he felt a familiar numbness spread throughout his chest. Though the sensation had become more prevalent in recent months, he told no one. As the cow picked up the deck with his upper right hand, he felt his splicer gauntlet pulse with energy. The cards were clearly imbued with a power beyond his experience. With his lower left hand, he delicately withdrew a card and placed it face up on the table. Ascension. Mithrax pondered the omen gravely. It reminded him of all the tribulations his house had suffered in coming to the last city. Their ascension had been a violent and sorrowful one, filled with detractors. Yet the peace and security they found among the humans had justified their risks. Now it was Eris who was walking into the sanctum of her mortal enemy to save her people. Mithrax shook his head in self-rebuke. Perhaps he'd been too rigid in his opinions regarding Eris Morn's mission. He owed her the same grace that the Vanguard had extended to him. He slid the card back into the middle of the deck and felt the numbness in his chest recede once again. In the weekly updates for Into the Light back in May, we received new lore each week on some of the different bosses. In Nezarec's lore, it speaks about the curse. Mithrax, Kell of House Light, is currently afflicted with Nezarec's curse, despite Nezarec being destroyed. This occurred when the cow led an effort to recover Nezarec's scattered remains. He wanted to distill Nezarec's essence into a mentally revivifying elixir, while siphoning the corruptive elements into himself. Attempts to dispel or cure this curse are ongoing. Chalco 319 was assigned to monitor it and report back any changes. Mithrax also appears in the final shape. In the epilogue scene after the main campaign, we get hints about future episodes. We saw Vex and Failsafe, which is currently going on now, and the next one, Revenant, comes out in a couple of months. We see Ido approaching Mithrax as he looks out over the city, and shadows loom behind him. We do also take part in a small quest to assist the leader of House Light in the Hollows quest, hunting Cora, an evil former pirate of House Winter who killed Mithrax's mother. Cora became a leader in House Salvation under Eris, and when she left, he became a hollowed-out vessel working for the Witness. There's a full video of that story already up on the channel. In this first Echoes episode though, after the Final Shapes campaign, we get another lore card. If you've been following the events so far, you'll know that the conductor at Nessus has been messing with Saint 14's mind and the Vex, telling him he's not the real Saint. The real Saint should have stayed dead all those years ago. Saint ends up going a little bit crazy and begins to question if this is all fake. Does he even really belong here? Many characters come to his aid with comfort, like Ikora and Osiris. But in the lore entry for that week, so does Mithrax, and the Curse of Nezarec makes itself known once more. Mithrax moved carefully through the hangar. The thrum of idling grav drives and hissing pneumatic lifts made his aching head throb. He squinted toward the interface set up at the far end of the docking bay and stopped short. Even amidst the cacophony, Saint's absence was jarring. Mithrax cast his gaze down as a dusty gray pigeon bobbed indignantly across the path, then ducked out of sight behind a rack of engine blocks. Mithrax stooped his head and followed. He pushed aside a drape of loose wiring and found Saint sitting on the edge of one of the docking stations, looking out over the city. Geppetto, Saint's ghost, hovered glumly over her guardian's shoulder. She nodded wordlessly at Mithrax as he approached, then glided back into the center of the hangar, leaving the two friends alone, but for the flock of pigeons that milled aimlessly behind them. "You have not come to visit for a while," Mithrax said. Saint's crested helm lay on the ground beside the Titan, and Mithrax carefully moved it before sitting next to him. Saint did not break his stare. "You come to check up on me?" he asked flatly. Mithrax considered the question. "Yes," he said. "How are you?" Saint shook his head. "I do not know," he said, words thick with exhaustion. "You do not need to know," Mithrax said. "How do you feel?" "I feel like..." Saint put a hand on his breastplate, then jabbed his fingers into the metal. Then again, harder. Mithrax swallowed his urge to ask him to stop. "Like I am not who I thought I was." Mithrax's hands reflexively went to his own chest. "When they found you, Ikora said you moved and spoke as though you were dreaming. I think maybe I have been dreaming for a long time." Saint looked down at his balled fists, then loosened his grip and laced his fingers together in his lap. "The conductor woke me," he whispered. Mithrax heard the darkness in his friend's voice. "What did it say to you?" he asked, keeping his own voice warm. "The truth," Saint said gravely. Mithrax sat patiently in silence. "It told me I am a lie," Saint said finally. "A copy. It said I am something left over from another reality, a twisted reflection from inside the Vex network. Osiris and the Guardian pulled me into this world, but I do not belong here." "Where are we?" Mithrax asked. Saint groaned and waved the question away. "Do not say something smart to me now. Osiris does this, and I've had enough of it." Again, Mithrax sat patiently. "We are in the tower," Saint muttered. Mithrax nodded. "We are," he said, stressing the first word. Saint looked over at the Elixni, then closed his eyes in acknowledgement. "Yes, yes, smart like Osiris. I say I do not belong, and I see where this is going." Mithrax drew himself to his feet. A pile of brightly colored canvas bags in a nearby pallet caught his attention, and he walked slowly to them. "What am I going to say?" he called over his shoulder. Saint sighed and leaned back on his hands. "You would say that you, Mithrax, proud Elixni of House Light, are here in the last city, stronghold of your enemies, and that if anyone does not belong, it is you." Mithrax smiled to himself and tore the corner of one of the canvas bags. Golden seeds spilled from within. "And yet," Saint continued, "you walk freely, you have many friendships, you talk with the great monster Saint 14, you feed his birds." Mithrax smiled. The pigeons gathered behind Saint's back as he scattered a loose handful of seed. Suddenly, his vision narrowed and darkened. His headache shrieked, filling his mind with blinding pain. He doubled over as a terrifying urge, Rule, Kel, roared through his chest. The pigeons burst away in harried flight, leaving the seed untouched on the ground. Saint was still watching the pigeons wheel through the sky and down into the city. Mithrax wrapped his arms around himself until the shaking subsided and took a deep draw of ether. "You are a good friend," Saint said quietly, his gaze fixed on the city. Mithrax walked over slowly and sat down next to him again. "I try," he said softly. So there you have it, Guardians, an update on Mithrax and the curse he has from Nezarec. Is Nezarec trying to make himself into this new form, taking over Mithrax himself? And will we be able to stop it in the next episode? Or would Mithrax maybe die and possibly ascend into the light? Cayde Siggs had a family, a wife and a son named Ace. Parts of this have been a mystery for a while, but today we have some new info in the final shape on the early days of Cayde Siggs, and it may change everything. Let's take a look. Before becoming an Exo, Cayde was a human soldier with significant debt above his head, leading him to accept a mysterious job offer from Clovis Bray. This decision resulted in his transformation into an Exo on Europa. Sometime later, when he would awake as a Guardian, he found a notebook with the name Ace on it and believed he had a wife and a son. But after that conversion, he no longer had contact with them. Cayde kept a journal for Ace, hoping to reconnect with his family one day. However, as an Exo, he experienced many memory resets, making it difficult to distinguish between real memories and constructed ones. Despite those challenges, the memories of his son and wife remained a strong motivating factor throughout his life. We see Ace and various cards have an impact on Cayde as a character. The Ace of Spades, the "I'm coming home" Ace line in Forsaken, and even the brand new suite of Cayde-themed weapons in the final shape.
I'm coming home, Ace.
In one of his journal entries, Cayde writes to his family as a human before becoming an Exo. "So there you have it, Ace. That's why I did what I did. I had no choice, really. It was that or the great beyond. Just know your dad did what he had to do if I ever wanted to see you and your mother again. You probably won't recognize me, since I'll be, well, a robot and all, but I'll find you. I promise." So that line appears to be before Cayde became an Exo. Even after he did, he continued to write, although memories would be clouded over time. He was a bodyguard for Maya Sundaresh of the Ishtar Academy on Venus, and even began to develop feelings for her, but nothing happened. This Ishtar gig is pretty wild, even for a lughead like me. Get it, Ace? Lughead? Come on, I'm trying. I'll get some better jokes, I promise. I knew I was here to secure some top secret thing in the jungle, but I saw it today. They dug up the remains of a technological civilization that actually predates humanity. Don't tell anyone I told you, or could be Wipesville again. In some entries, he begins to question some of his memories due to exo resets. This has been fun, I guess, but it'll all be gone tomorrow. I have been what they call compromised, which is funny because I feel fine. Could use a few upgrades, but what exo couldn't? But compromised means they are going inside my brain to wipe it from my memory. Met an interesting fellow exo who leaves letters like this in caches. So whatever she gets saddled with next, she might come across one and take a trip down lost memory lane. Ace, know that when I find you, I will never let them find me. Things are even weirder now, Ace. This is my 4th assignment, and I'm kinda losing touch with what came before this whole exo thing, and what's a leftover fragment from another tour. I knew this would have its kinks. I guess this is one of them. You know me. I didn't bother reading the fine print or anything. At least I know you're real, right? In other lore from Forsaken, Cayde himself doesn't remember them. The collapse happens, Cayde becomes a guardian, and when he awakes, he finds Ace's name in a journal. Here's the truth, Ace. I don't remember you. Found your name in a journal I had on me when my ghost rezzed me. I guess I used to write to you, and I kept doing it, even though you're long dead, if you ever really existed. Just liked having someone to write to, I guess. So there you have it. Now you'll never guess what happened today, Ace. So we have some text that says Cayde as a human had a family. As an exo and then guardian, he begins to question if they were even real. But he continues to write to Ace even if they weren't real because it helped Cayde. Helped him believe in a purpose, in a past. Just as anybody else would write in a journal, to write down their thoughts and work things out. Things get interesting in the final shape. In the expansion, we meet a new character, Micah 10, well, in-game at least. Micah is a vendor that became a guardian and was a part of the 6 Coyotes. She helped rally and foster ghosts as they searched for their guardian. But before that, it was much different. Long ago during the Golden Age, on the snowy tundras of Europa, Clovis Bray built Eventide in his exo facilities. Many scientists would flock here for the opportunity at innovation and discovery. Among them were 2 men and scientists, Hector and Wesley Abram. They had a child named Micah Abram. During the time on Europa, Micah wrote letters to the Traveler, collected penguin plushies, and had reoccurring dreams about being an exo. These dreams carried cryptic messages and repeated over months. Now that's a story for a whole nother video, but along the way, Micah ran away and broke into the exo facilities where Cayde 1 was on patrol. Although horrified at first, Micah developed a friendship with Cayde 1 soon after, which helped her process her emotions and transgender identity. Micah later became an exo. In Micah's quest in the final shape, she speaks about Europa and her friend Cayde. Cayde doesn't remember.
What stopped Kargan?
If this log is correct, Maya Sundaresh did.
Maya? Why does that name sound so familiar?
Why don't you and I talk about that offline, Cayde? Let the Guardian and Ghost track down Bean.
Yeah, that sounds good. Europa, I ain't even there, and I can feel all that cold in my bones.
Do you remember Europa, Cayde?
Bits and pieces, yeah. I ain't a big fan of numbers lower than 6, but there's still pieces of them in here. Rattling chains. Haunted.
Cayde, do you remember anything from your first exo incarnation?
Some. Ain't exactly happy to talk about what I do, either.
Was there a child?
I think. I don't know. I remember bits and pieces, shadows of faces. It's all a jumble, Micah. Why?
It's nothing. They can wait for a more private moment.
I've never told anyone this, but I knew Cayde before he was a guardian, before I was a guardian.
We were both on Europa before the collapse. I found out about it after the Braytech facilities on Europa were unearthed. I know Guardians aren't supposed to go digging into their past, but I did. I found my Exomind archive. I found myself. Micah Abram. I grew up on Europa, and even then I was struggling to understand my identity in so many ways. As a child, I was having dreams, visions sent to me by the Traveler. I didn't understand them then, but I do now. It was preparing me for this, for loss, for losing people like Anwar, like Cayde. Cayde was the personal bodyguard of an Ishtar Collective researcher named Maya Sundarish. He was an exo before I entered the program. He helped me. When my fathers were away on work, Cayde would talk to me, play cards, teach me how to cope with isolation. Cayde doesn't remember. And that's okay. I can hug him one last time and remind him that he was missed, that he saved me.
So the interesting thing was Micah Ace? Now, Cayde apparently had letters written to Ace before when he was human, but after that he did bond with Micah Abram on Europa as Cayde 1. He went through many resets after, so it's possible that Micah could have been Ace, or took the position of Ace through his many resets. Cayde later became a Guardian and found the journal. So right now we have human Cayde that may have remembered his wife and son. Exo Cayde on Europa meets Micah and bonds, continues to write in his journal. At some point works as a bodyguard on Venus for Ishtar researcher Maya Sundaresh and begins to form feelings for her. Exo Cayde gets reset many times and forgets things. Exo Cayde dies during the collapse and then later wakes as a Guardian, finds his journal which mentions Ace. So beyond that, Maya may have been the Queen of Hearts he remembers, his love or wife. Micah and Maya Sundaresh both appear on Cayde's new weapons. Micah as the Queen of Spades, and Lakshmi/Maya as the Queen of Hearts. From Forsaken's The Man They Called Cayde lore book, the last entry, Bad Beat. Been trying hard to give you a sense of what matters to me, but also to find a way to talk about things that scare me. Thing, really singular, and that is loss. Losing. I'm a poor loser, I admit it. I run from it, full speed. Others don't, others accept it, but everything I said about my queen is true. She is my shield. She is also a lie. I don't know when I made her up, or better, I don't know when I decided to believe in a life I don't know and can never truly own. Was it during this life? Was it my rebirth as a Guardian, or the void of everything I was before? What drove me to invent comfort? Possible, even likely, but I'm not sure. I do have flashes of memory of the life I had before I was a Guardian, but that's all they are. Flashes. Quick flickers of people and places in my dreams, or in that space between a bullet and getting rest. I see a woman there, and she's all I've ever known of a life since long gone. I feel love for her. Is that love a memory, or am I simply loving the memory? I've convinced myself of the former. I've concocted a truth to make myself whole. The kid, the woman, I do not know them. They are not real. But I wish I did, and I wish they were. They're just the two best cards I could find to keep up my sleeve when the odds were stacked against me. I made them real in my mind and in my heart. I fell in love with the idea of them, and I crafted a truth that allowed me to feel. Without Ace, and without my queen to listen to me, to hear me, to see me, there's no telling who I would have become. But I know, and I know there's a chance it wouldn't have been very nice. So that is interesting. One line that pokes out in particular is the one where he talks about the flashes of the life he had before. Quick flickers of people and places in his dreams, or in that space between a bullet and getting rezzed. So that afterlife, so to speak, is kind of the same one he talks about in the final shape. All things, all these memories return to the traveler in this space, this afterlife, and Sundance was there with him.
A jack of spades?
Yeah, I had a whole system to keep track of things. The royal cards stood for weapons. Spades meant hake, clubs for Crux Lomar, diamonds for Amalon, and hearts... well, hearts were for this girl I knew.
What was her name?
Don't you have a stealth drive to find?
So right now, things seem to be up in the air with some contradicting lore. Did Cayde actually have a family, a wife and a son before he became an Exo? Or through these memory resets and then becoming a Guardian, did things get clouded and foggy? Him just remembering the bond he had with a child named Micah on Europa. The Mother of Ghosts, a Guardian who found lost ghosts in the wilds of Earth and helped them find their Guardian. A Guardian who helped forge the legendary 6 Coyotes and even makes an appearance in the Pale Heart. Today we discuss her story. So today's video is going to focus on Micah 10's Guardian life. Her role in the 6 Coyotes, the vision she experienced from the Traveler, and her role as a protector of ghosts. We've talked about Micah's early history before. As a child, she went to Europa with her fathers. She believes she often heard and seen visions from the Traveler, and she even ran into Cayde 1 and other Exos while breaking into Exo facilities, eventually becoming an Exo herself at age 17. At some point, Micah then traveled to Earth and died, was later resurrected as a Guardian, and her life would begin. From Micah 10 to Tallulah Fairwind, which was one of the first Hunter Vanguards. Category 5-sat bounce, priority 3. Hello, old friend. I have a knack for finding hunters. Another of my little pack has found her partner, a human male, and now the two of them are coming to you by watercraft over the Pacific. Keep an eye on this one, Talu. He's taken the name Andal Brask, and I believe he will be trouble. Perhaps all of this travel has made me sentimental, for when one of my ghost wards finds their Guardian, I am sad because my pack grows smaller. I miss them when they are gone. Now I am down to one ghost other than my own. Pup, we call him, the runt of my metallic litter. Pup has yet to speak, but always has his little blue eyes searches for his Guardian. I plan to resupply the Cosmodrome and then take Pup north. Those steps are uncharted territory, except by that lone wolf Connor. My correspondence with him is regular in the outbound direction. I consider myself lucky when he answers every 5th message. Still, you and I both know his intel is good. No one else knows old Russia like he does. Perhaps in the Cosmodrome I will find a ship capable of breaking atmosphere. Though there is much of this Earth I have yet to see, I have come across more than a few ghosts who believe their Guardians are off-world, waiting in the Golden Age ruins of Freehold and Ishtar and beyond. Some of these little lights have decided to brave the Null on their own to reach their fated partners. I tell them there's still so much of Earth we've yet to sniff out, that perhaps their Guardians have not yet been born, but some of them are convinced. If my next ghost pack wants to make the journey, I am determined to join them. These last few months we've enjoyed the pleasant absence of Cyrell. Now I feel more confident that we lost him in Astralis. If he tries to hurt my ghosts, I will rip his throat out. I hope you're not feeling too cooped up. You're still doing good work, Talu. As they say, better you than me. Your faithful den mother of ghosts, Micah 10. So that card explains itself pretty well. Micah, this Guardian and Exo on Earth, believed her purpose was to help ghosts. Help them find a Guardian and strengthen their bond with the Traveler. She didn't have a ship to start and believed that Earth's abandoned expanse had a lot to offer. Sure, she might help Guardians in other worlds, foreshadowing what happens in the final shape, but she herself believed in Earth, believed there was more to uncover in the wreckage of our Golden Age cities. She speaks of different Guardians she's come across, like Connor, She kept in touch with Connor and became a member of the 6 Coyotes alongside him, founding the group. This was a group of 6 guardians who became legends among the citizens and guardians of the city, how they were the first to scout the Cosmodrome. In the lore card we're about to read how they defended a town called Cayde and got their name, and how they, like Micah-assisted ghosts, helped guardians and civilians to safety of the last city. From the Destiny 2 ship called the Bandwagon, here's its lore. Well, Micah 10 and Connor found 3 more guardians willing to come to Cayde. None of them look thrilled to be here. I wonder what Micah's paying them. When I asked her if 5 guardians would be enough to protect us from the kings, she launched into a speech about how being a guardian means protecting people no matter what. I know what that means. 5 is not enough. Everyone here is going to die. I could run, some fantasy I've been nursing for years, rappel down from the eastern Talwalk, make for the coast. Connor says that tunnel I can see from the Talwalk, it's full of fallen. Open spaces like the road are safer. With this information, I could probably make it 10 whole kilometers from the village before I'm killed. That's 4 more than I could have otherwise. Maybe it's worth a shot. Diary of Himura Shinobu. So you can see that's how this group of guardians got their name, defending this village called Cayde from the House of Kings of the Fallen. These were the guardians among their ranks, including Shinobu, Micah 10, Connor, Lee 4, who she mentions in lore, among some others. In the final shape, Mara introduces our guardian to a new ally, one who will help us find scattered ghosts to help heal the traveler, bring them home. It's none other than Micah 10. Now Micah currently likely is still on Earth, given we see her in hologram form. She's not in the Pale Heart, but she still guides us on journeys across Soul and the Heart to find ghosts and bring them back to safety.
Look at you, walking tall. Nice to meet you. I'm Micah 10 of the 6 Coyotes. I'm used to ranging far and wide, but this whole new frontier, huh? Feels right to be where we are, though. You might know I shepherd on partner ghosts looking for guardians. I came to the Pale Heart following some of my flock who felt called here. Now some of them have gone missing. This is a dangerous place in its current state. The Witness has done a real number on it. My friend Lee swears up and down the Traveler's hurt, that we've got to help it. It's not such a surprising conclusion to come to when you look at it. My charges were pretty twisted up about it last I saw them. They want to heal the Traveler too, but a ghost isn't meant to be alone. So here's my ask. You help me track down the ghosts who haven't come back. We solve whatever trouble they've gotten into. And then, if we are very good and a little lucky, maybe we help the Traveler while we're out there. This war has gone on so long. And despite all the battles we've won, we've never been so close to losing everything. If there's any chance this can help the Traveler, I need your help, Guardian.
Many of these ghosts would scatter across the system looking for answers, ways to help stop defeat the Witness. Some would investigate nightmares, Vex and Red Legion activity, ley lines, Warmind bunkers for parts, even the Pyramid of Luna searching for answers on the Witness. In the final shape, we learn that when everything returns to the Traveler, it begins to heal. When ghosts or guardians die, this is what happens. They return to the Traveler itself, make it more whole. These mini-quests were pretty fun. You get some gear for it and it brings you to various locations across Destiny 2. We also learn lore, of course, about Micah and also the ghosts we help reclaim. Some of them are new names, some we've heard before and are a part of ghost groups like the Watchful Eye.
I brought a flock with me, but there's a lot of other unpartnered ghosts out there who aren't accounted for. So, what I'd like you to do is follow up on some leads I have and go find these friends and bring them back here to join the fight. I've got telemetry on another unpartnered ghost. Your next target is Link, A member of a covert team of unpartnered ghosts called the Watchful Eye. General location of Hailung. She's another member of the Watchful Eye. Turns out Hailung was sent on a long-term recon operation inside Savathun's throne world. But that was over a year ago. There's been no contact with Hailung since, and I don't know what to expect. The Hidden provided me with her last known coordinates.
Micah is an interesting character for a couple of reasons. Six Coyotes, being a den mother of ghosts, but also she's able to hear visions from the Traveler. Many different characters are, like the speaker was, your guardian at points with some of these visions, but some of these humans and guardians are just more attuned to it, can go deeper. When Micah was a child, she had visions back on Europa. She continues to explain more in the Pale Heart as you find these artifacts of the Traveler.
As a child, I was having dreams, visions sent to me by the Traveler. I didn't understand them then, but I do now. It was preparing me for this, for loss, for losing people like Anwar, like Cayde.
The Dread, the Final Shape's new enemy race, has an interesting backstory. Some are shaped from disciples through blueprints. Others are members of conquered species, but all are reshaped by the evil minds of the Witness. Today we discuss their lore and backstory. The Dread are Destiny's first enemy race added in a while, and today we discuss what we know about their story. The Witness is inside the Traveler to enact the Final Shape, or was. We see it with the environment as it cuts subjects and rearranges them in strange ways. But it also began to shape its own army. The Dread feature many new variants: the Grim, Husk, Attendant, Weaver, Subjugator, and Tormentor. In the new exotic warlock chess piece, the Matiodoxia, we see how the Witness creates a Grim, and it's pretty terrifying. The moment when wings and limbs are held on tenterhooks and the pin enters the thorax. The Witness has made an old friend of darkness. It knows intimately the language of warp and weft, how to weave a spider silk notion or slip a needle of intrusive thought into the fabric of another's mind. In its hands, the light should be alien and inelegant, the hammer and chisel so unlike its customary tools. But though the Witness has never wielded light like this before, parts of it recall a time when they made the gardener's tools their own. But now that power is not freely given. Now every stroke of the chisel is accompanied by a distant wail, a minor annoyance at most. The raw material is mediocre, but a true artist can paint on any canvas. The Witness has far more vision than the feckless sphere it has superseded. A paean to our final work. It works in broad strokes first, cuts away the excess, peels back the integument and lays bare the shivering raw meat of it. In it, the Witness sees a glimpse of the sculpture trapped inside, waiting to be freed by its hand. One assistant places the pins, another wipes away the effluvia. A form to teach our enemy fear, a shadow they will dread. The rough grows restless, it thrashes, threatening to upset the delicate work done so far. The Witness spares it a sharp, quelling look, and it stills. Nothing may distract the auteur from its work. Onward, it refines the form, tearing wings of muscle away from bone, carving down until exposed marrow streams in the cold air. Its tempo increases, its motions grow sharper until it's slashing wildly at its canvas. Its assistants tremble. They do not see that its expression is frozen in absolute serenity. It is as calm and clear-eyed as it has ever been, discarding yards of still-living tripe to reveal perfection. So in that card, the Witness is crafting what it believes is a perfect being. It says it uses the light, recalls it from a time long past, likely when members of the precursor species used the light to terraform worlds and create gardens. Minions assist as it tears away flesh and tortures this creature, cuts away the excess and creates a new form the enemy will fear and dread. Nice wording there. It mentions wings multiple times in the lore and flavor text, so this makes me believe it's talking about the creation of a Grimm. The Grimm, at least what they were before this transformation, were believed to be a conquered species by the Witness, had found them somewhere out there in the universe.
Servants of the Witness, they must be remnants from a conquered species.
Previous lore from Pantheon texts in the weekly updates detailed the Witness and its corruption of some species, how it may use its disciples, its most devoted followers, as blueprints. The Witness made contact with Ralk on his homeworld Lubre, restored him, and empowered him as the first disciple. Here, with you, my Witness. And what do you feel now, devoid of family? Devoid of the regime, devoid of Lubre? What do you feel here in our embrace, now that they are gone and you are left? Ralk opens his eyes, crawls forth through the blackened solution that engulfed him all this time, emerges from the wall of obsidian-like miasma to find his luster, to find Lubre's ruin. Taking them, he rises to his feet. What do you feel, my child? Relief. Nezarec. Nezarec was created from Ralk's blueprint. Ralk's blueprint was used to create Nezarec or alter him from his original species. He underwent some transformation just like Ralk did. Then to go a step further, Nezarec was used to create Tormentors, and we know that Tormentors are a part of the Dread. So the Witness is using blueprints from its disciples to create this new species, it would appear. Tormentors are the biggest of them all. They first appeared in Lightfall alongside Nezarec and are an exact blueprint or copy of him. In Lightfall, we had characters question Tormentors like Osiris, wondering if Callus's cloning technology had a part to play in their creation. Maybe that's why the Witness partnered with Callus.
What was that?
The fruits of an unholy alliance between the Witness and Callus. I fear they'll have more surprises in store.
Regardless, these imprints are terrifying and are at the top of the chain in terms of power and sometimes command. They have giant scythes, can leap in the air and drain your light abilities and supers from nearby guardians. Oh yeah, they can also grab you and crush you in the palm of its hand. Subjugators can be very dangerous and have a couple of different variants. The Omens, who use Stasis, and the Harbingers, who use Strand. These units are often found around the Pale Heart and act as the leader of the pack. Other enemies will swarm to their position and regroup if the Subjugator moves around, retreats to certain destinations. Subjugators also appear like Ralk, so while we don't have confirmation, it's possible they are also based off of his blueprint. Ralk was often referred to as the Subjugator himself.
Conqueror, many called me. Again and again I heard this word, logged my direction not with admiration, but with malice. And as I walked away, their fountainhead in tow, I could hear them whisper with respect. Subjugator.
And a cool fact about Subjugators, most of them appear to be female. The Weavers and Attendants. These are Scion units that have been reshaped by the Witness with darkness abilities. We know that some Scions were loyal to Callus in the darkness, like seen in the Vox Obscura Witch Queen missions. So it is possible either they joined the Witness and it reshaped them, Callus had Scion clones created, or the Witness just took Scions on its own and made them part of its dark army. They can get pretty annoying with their stasis and strand powers, sometimes launching strand at you and pulling you like a rubber band across the map.
Guardian, I'm not sure what that creature is. It reads like a scion, but its genetics are scrambled, changed.
Agents of the Black Fleet. Nezarec, Rolk, even Callus. They were just the beginning.
The Husk are very cool and unique. They wield giant blades on their arms and appear to look very similar to Hive in some aspects, like an acolyte. The Witness basically created the Hive long ago, so this might be its perfected shape of that species. Like the Hive, who have a worm inside them, the Husk have a Geist inside its body that will track the player after its host has been destroyed. We then have the Grimm, which we explained a little bit earlier, or their creation. The Grimm are one of the coolest dread enemies in my opinion. Ghost tells us that they were shaped from a species conquered by the Witness, which is pretty cool. We know the Witness conquers and destroys many species, but like its disciples, the fact that it pulls some of those out to become members of its own darkness force is very intriguing. It really further cements it as that evil villain. The Grimm have their own weapons and resonance blasts which can stun the Guardians, and although they're easy to take down, can be quite difficult in groups and higher difficulty activities. IGN has their own Destiny show called Fireteam Chat, and in it recently, just a couple of days ago, they talked about the Dread. The video is almost an hour long, but here are some important tidbits we picked out. Apparently, prototyping for the Dread began a long time ago. Some people think, hey, Bungie delayed the expansion and just somehow magically made the Dread. But it looks like the entire species has been in development since around Shadowkeep, building upon work of past expansions and ideas, and eventually releasing them from the top down, Tormentor first, the most scary one, and then build upon those early prototypes. Something I find cool is the Enrage mechanic. It's in-game, but some people may not even notice it. When a unit reaches half health like the Subjugator here, it'll become more aggressive. You can see the way its face lights up in a darker reddish color. The Grimm were referred to as gargoyles in early development, which we actually saw in some of the trailers, and Bungie wants to expand upon the Dread in the future, hopefully in lore but also in gameplay. There's potential for the faction to be included in other activities in the game. Onslaught would be pretty crazy. I'm not sure how fun that would be, but just a random thought. So those are just some cool facts. If you'd like to see more, definitely check out Fireteam Chat. Savathun, the Witch Queen. She's been a deceptive, cunning queen for billions of years and returns to do so in the final shape. Appearing as an ally in the final battle, she still has mystery tied to her motives and the master plan above that of light and dark. Let's discuss. Savathun's last big moment happened in Season of the Witch. Eris became a hive god to deal with Xivu Arath, and in return revived Savathun because we needed her help learning how to enter the Traveler. We learned that there was one last wish that could be made to Inaham Kara and would allow us somehow to enter the portal. So Savathun told us this information. The Vanguard took her ghost Maru and kept it in storage, and Savathun was free to go. Saint ventured to the throne world and killed her multiple times after she was revived, but beyond that she's just been kind of out there doing whatever it is she does. Fast forward to the events of the final shape. With the fate of the universe in balance, Savathun along with our allies has entered the Traveler. Savathun is a hive god and enemy, but it's kind of strange because at times she wants the same thing we do, although ulterior motives may be at play. We've been in moments like this before, but this was just amplified a million. The universe was about to end. Of course she would be here trying to stop the Witness. The hidden dossier text from Witch Queen told us some things about the Witch Queen. The Truth to Power documents that Savathun can exist in various forms, and has been given birth to multiple times by different means, likely the way she continually evolves and also shapeshifts into characters like Osiris. Savathun's plans in the past involved hive tribute, black holes, and Ahamkara wish dragon magics. She manipulated these elements to achieve her goals, And over time, we've seen her use whatever is at her disposal to do so, the light, and now maybe the pale heart. The Truth to Power text showed us that Savathun seeks power and understanding, perhaps beyond the universe, and she employs complex, layered strategies to achieve these ends. Towards the end of that book, there's also speculation that Savathun aims to move beyond the current universe into a parent universe, or a higher reality, using the knowledge and power she has amassed. That was back around Witch Queen. In the final shape after the first 7 missions, you have Queens Part 1 and 2, where Savathun is in the Pale Heart and begins to stir things up once more.
My God, my friend, you. What a strange world we found ourselves in. The Pale Heart itself. I knew I'd see it someday, but not as its savior. Well, a savior among saviors. Your Mara was as formidable as ever. I'm impressed she was able to stabilize the Witness's portal long enough for your allies to slip through. Including myself. I don't believe I was invited. Forgive me, but we have a common cause. Besides, would you really turn me away at your time of need? Our relationship is conditional, transactional. I understand that. It couldn't be anything else. My Lucent Hive will still come after you. Make you sharp, as my sister would say. Consider it an act of love. Now, do what you do best. And when you need me, I'll be there. But after this, I don't owe you a thing.
We get a quest where Guardians and their allies confront the Witch Queen. The Lucent Brood have begun to invade, hop over the mountains near the threshold where we entered and we're heading for the tower. As we go to confront them, we find Savathun herself. Savathun claims she has a common cause with the Guardians, as she's always had. But of course, there are some strings attached and things are more cryptic than they seem. As our Guardian, Cayde, and others flock to meet these Lucent Brood, tensions rise as Savathun mocks your Guardian and their motives, the balance between light and darkness.
Figures. Savathun waited until we were down to kick us.
Isn't that the prevailing style, my sweet flappable friend? At least it's my style.
What the hell do you think you're doing? The entire universe is at stake. Why are your people attacking us?
Why indeed? Maybe you should ponder that little riddle a bit more. Let it roll around in your pretty little skulls. There's more than existence at stake within the Traveler. I'm sure you've so many guesses as to what my motives could be. Look at you, Guardian, brimming with light and dark, like an overflowing teacup. Not so long ago, some would have called that heretical.
That's enough. We're trying to heal the Traveler. If we lose, so do you.
If my little army is enough to stop you from winning your fight, do you really think you have a chance against something like the Black Fleet?
You think you're helping us?
Oh, I've always been helping us. But I'll admit, this little contingency is a tad more selfish than I've let on. Don't worry. We're almost done.
We don't have time for your games.
Oh, that's all this is, Crow. A game of moving pieces and pretty shapes. But I'm looking beyond this one. Setting the pieces for the next with great anticipation. Welcome to the end, Guardian. Show me how you're going to stop it. Not bad, but not good enough. Not yet, anyway. I'll be watching.
Leave the Witch Queen to me. I have a suspicion about what game she's at, and we can't let it distract us.
Savathun's manipulative nature really shows in part 1 of Queen. She says, "I've always been here to help the Guardians." She speaks of this tactical game we're all a part of here inside the Pale Heart, and the pieces we'll have to place for the future game. And those future moves are what's intriguing. The Lucent Brood here still fight the Guardian, but Savathun has sort of a different stance. She's more like, yeah, some of them will fight you endlessly, just like the Hive themselves do. But others will begin to choose their own way, see things in a higher form, like Lizaku from the campaign. Those who follow this new path may be able to break the cycle, break their Hive species out of this continuous cycle of darkness and sword logic, move beyond light and dark to what's next. So there's a couple of options. Savathun could send the Lucent Brood to stall us as she works on her plan, or maybe she just wants them all to die out, Ghost returning to and healing the Traveler in the process.
The sky greets you.
Lizaku, you haven't rejoined the other Lucent Hive.
No. This one seeks different truths. This one will follow her own path.
And Savathun is okay with that?
The Witch Queen does not desire control. And yet, freedom is a prison, and choice is a cage of our own making.
I don't understand.
Neither does this one. But in time, all things can be revealed.
We'll leave you to your contemplation, then.
Walk in the sky, Ghost.
It was only a matter of time before Savathun showed herself. She is not capable of letting this moment pass without placing a claw on the scales. For now, she has exactly what she wants. Uncertainty. We will take that from her. Track down her brood and pull back the veil from her plans.
Mara Sav, so eager to spar with gods at the drop of a hat. Aren't you tired of losing to me?
I seem to recall your logic refuted. Your ghost being imprisoned by the Vanguard. That tastes of anything but loss.
Do you see it yet? The end of our little game. Buried between memory and material.
Between dark and light. What trinket from the past holds your attention so?
Not a trinket. Perspective. The knowledge of angles, of edges, and the points at which they end. A convincing argument from Sister Security, you could say.
No, she couldn't have meant. Guardian, those taken. I need you to focus your efforts on destroying them and releasing their energy. As much of it as you can.
Mom, what did you do?
Placed a finger on the scales. The darkness inside of you is searching, like standing on the threshold of being taken. You see how they see. I cannot hold it any longer.
I feel the Traveler's pain too, you know. Without me, the Witness would have swept Saul away a long time ago.
How noble of you. I am sure your intentions were pure, with no ulterior motive.
We play an unwinnable game, meant to extend on forever. And I've shown you how to change the rules time and time again, without even a thank you.
There will be a day when you've run out your usefulness, Witch. When you will have no greater scheme to protect you from our wrath. We must know what is happening here. Guardian, destroy the Taken. I require their power. Move, Guardian! Reveal what lies here. I will hold as long as I am able.
Wait. I feel light. But it's out of phase? A light fissure. But it exists in an entirely different state of matter that we can normally perceive.
But the Taken can.
Ah, Ah, you figured it out. Just in time. Here they come now.
This one comes to your aid, Guardian. You need not fight alone.
There are fissures of light all across the Pale Heart that exist out of phase with the material world, ones brimming with potential. Now that I know how to find them, I should be able to help the Traveler.
Then we're both getting what we want. How nice when light bearers find mutually beneficial outcomes. You're welcome. And thank you for not interfering as much as you could have.
Words spoken on borrowed time. You only live because a threat more pressing overshadows you.
Oh, there's no need to flatter me. You can save your love for later when all of this comes back around.
If you're so interested in helping, call off the Lucent Brood. Help us fight the Traveler's enemies.
Guardians, always wanting more. Don't look a tithing thrall in the maw, little ghost.
During our final battle, when our allies enter the Pale Heart to assist, Savathun is also there.
This is a change of pace, isn't it? Never let it be said I wasn't here when it counted. Take this. Use it in the elegant way to which you Guardians are so accustomed. Do you feel it, Guardians? Your work is not yet finished.
And after the campaign, a week later, we get the Dual Destiny mission. I believe this one takes place canonically after these events of the main campaign, but not 100% sure. In this mission, two players complete puzzles through light and dark as Savathun continues to goad about these powers and the Witness and the Traveler. Savathun discusses the manipulation and deception of light and dark forces, as well as the cyclical conflict between the Witness and the Traveler. She warns against following any commanding voice without questioning it and need to trust one's own instincts and decisions. This is interesting coming from Savathun because she followed both of these powers, darkness and then light.
A long time ago, there were three sisters. A voice in the darkness put a lie in their hearts, and they've acted on it since. Just as you've been lied to. Light and dark, Witness and Traveler, always doubled, always pitted against each other in some grand game. Well, I've had enough of their games, haven't you? Let's break their rules together. Well, look at you. Trusting your own instincts, thinking for yourself. I'm so proud. You and I, we're not interested in playing other people's games. Now Ziva Warat. Oh, my sister has always played by the rules. And where did that get her? Nowhere good. There's no power in blindly following the whims of capricious, self-titled gods. Except yourself. Your age-old enemy. Come at last. Your enemy. Your adversary. Your would-be killer. The Traveler's champion. Seeking blood. Do it. Crush their ghost. Oh, you sweet, gullible killers. You'll follow any voice loud enough to command your attention. Light and dark may not be opposing forces, but you'll pit them against each other all the same. Just like the Witness.
A word of advice. Don't listen to every god who comes calling. Me included.
So Savathun is tired of all of these gods. Some worship the light, some worship the dark, or even both. Savathun's stance is, let's not worship any of them anymore. Let's free ourselves from this game. Now there's no doubt she's in the Pale Heart for a reason, sure to stop the end of the universe, but also something else. There's tons of knowledge, power, and tactics to be learned here, and that will likely help her achieve whatever she's after. Her entire species, entire existence could have been much different, but thanks to the Witness, here they all are entangled in its mess. Just think about it. The Witness was going to use this place to rewrite the universe. What else could be done here? The hidden dossier told us Savathun wanted to reach beyond into a parent universe. Was that the Pale Heart? Or is there something else? Maybe this afterlife-type metaphysical place that Cayde spoke of. Something to do with this taken energy like we saw in Queen's Part 2. Or whatever lies beyond maybe exists in our own reality, kind of like she did with those Twitter posts long ago. But it is possible for realities to be concatenated. The Awoken Distributary is an infinite universe, but it exists within our universe. The Truth to Power documents constantly return the question of black hole singularities, to their value as computers and as secret keepers. We are told that our true purpose as Guardians is to hurl all we value into a black hole. We are told that Savathun wants to enter the Distributary and slaughter those within to gain power. The Pathria Good black hole cosmogenesis principle of Golden Age physics confirms that the interior of a black hole is a new universe. All black holes produce their own interior cosmos. All cosmos, including our own, are probably the interior of a black hole in a parent universe. The Truth to Power documents want it understood that Savathun wishes to enter the Distributary in order to gain power in our parent universe. The suggestion here is that it is possible for actions in a concatenated universe to grant power in the parent universe. What Savathun wants in the Dreaming City is exactly that. Not the way into a child universe, but a way out into a parent. A parent where there are human minds waiting to receive her, formless as Imbaru, as the mist. So Hidden Dossier came out around Witch Queen, which then spoke about Truth to Power from Forsaken. Since then, Savathun has moved on to different means of power. She originally wanted to enter that Distributary and gain all that power, but then she went toward the light. So this information is a little bit old involving Savathun's plans, but you never know if some of it could still come true. Was gaining the light just part of this battle? Her true goal and next move in the game to be revealed soon. Anyway, Guardians, that's all we got for today's video. Savathun's involvement in the Pale Heart and thoughts about the future and the moves she might make. If you'd like to see some more Destiny lore and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.